Hi guys, welcome to this short induction video which will show you how to use the equipment here in the gym safely and effectively. There's a gym etiquette poster on the wall which details the kind of things you need to consider whilst you're in here, the main essence of which revolves around being considerate to your fellow gym users. Two key points from that include the wiping down of equipment after you've used it, and as importantly, tidying up of any free weights or anything that you might have left on the floor that other gym users might trip over. And generally try and leave the gym in the sort of condition you'd hope to find it in when you arrived. Okay, so I will now take you through the various pieces of equipment in the gym and how to use them. Okay, so treadmill. First thing you need to do, jump up on the belt and attach the cutout clip. So make sure that's securely fastened to your clothing. The idea of which being that if you, while you're running or jogging or what have you, you injure yourself and fall off the back, then it will cut the belt, which will stop immediately and reduce the chances of you hurting yourself on the actual machine. Once you're all attached, push the quick start button. There's just a bit of a lag until the belt gets going, and then it will start extremely slowly. So you increase your speed with the plus button. And obviously the belt will speed up nice and gradually. And then to reduce your speed, push the minus button. And that will obviously slow you down. The other thing to adjust on here is the gradient on the front. So if you wanted to do some uphill walking, for example, you push the plus and the front of the machine will lift up and you're walking uphill. And obviously the minus will bring that back down. Two different ways really to stop it. Push the stop button in front of you or hit the emergency stop button. If while you're running along you do hurt yourself and you can't get to the stop button very easily, you can always straddle the belt. And to do that, you grab the handles and pop your feet securely either side of the belt, and then you're in a nice controlled position to push the stop button. Okay, so exercise bike. First thing you need to do is adjust the seat height. So you sit on it, and when you're on there, it should have just a very slight angle at the knee. So that saddle's way too low for me. Beneath the seat is a little yellow paddle. If you pull that up, and the seat slides up really easily and then locks back in. Then you sit back up on it, and then when the pedal's at its lowest point, you should just have a slight angle in the knee like that. Okay, so with this one, you need to start pedaling before the display lights up. So just gently turn the pedals, and there's a little handy red indicator that goes across as the display charges up. And then it will light up quite brightly. Push quick start, and you're underway. So the time will count up in the middle here. And the only other thing really that you would adjust on here is the resistance on the front wheel. So to increase that, you push the plus next to effort level, and obviously the resistance increases and it's much harder to pedal. And to reduce that, you push the minus and just cycle along nice and steadily. Two different handle positions, upright like that, or down like that. Okay, so rowing machine. Quite a bit to remember on this one. First of all, the resistance, which is governed by the fan on the front. So that has a little handle here that you slide up and down. And if you have that between the 6 and the 7, then that simulates most accurately outdoor rowing. Next thing, feet. Got to get your feet in the foot straps and secured in the correct position. To test that position, you pop your foot in, and this strap should go across the end of your laces. So that's not in the correct position because the strap's too far up my foot. To adjust it, you pull that forward and it's on a little slider. Wiggle it down a little and then pop your foot in, pull the strap tight, which then is lined up with the end of my laces. Obviously make sure both of your feet are in securely fastened, because you will have to flex back against those straps a little bit when you row. Next thing to remember is the grip of the actual bar itself, and you should have that in like a claw grip. So not right up in your fist like that, but actually towards the end of your fingers. And I'll get to that bit in a sec, but before then we talk about the display. So to get that started, push menu. Just give it a second or two to light up. And then all you're pushing is just row, which is the top one. So push just row. Various little digital things crop up. The two key ones for you, top one, which is your time, counting up from 0, and the next one down, which says stroke 500 meters, and that's an idea of your rate. So the lower the time that flashes up in there, the faster you're rowing 500 meters, and therefore the faster you're effectively rowing. Okay, so a little bit about rowing technique. As discussed, claw grip. So grab the bar in the end of your fingers, but with a kind of rigid claw-like grip, and then you drive with your legs, pull with your arms, back with your arms, back with your legs. Legs, arms, arms, legs. Nice flat back as well, so you're not too hunched over. And off you go, legs, arms, arms, legs. Okay, so cross trainer, a couple of things to remember before you do get on it. When you put your feet on the pedals, they will move, and so will these handles. So just be a little bit wary of that before you jump on. Then pop your feet on the foot plates and make sure they're pretty much in the middle of each one. And you start skating in a cross-country skiing sort of motion, and the display will very slowly light up. Once you're ready, you then push quick start. It's a second or two pause, and then it will count you up from 0 minutes, so you can go for whatever duration you wish. The other thing to adjust on here is the resistance on the wheel at the back, and obviously that will make it much harder to skate or easier. So you push the plus next to the effort level to make it more difficult, and obviously the minus takes the resistance off and makes it much easier. Two handle options. You can just have static arms and hold the ones right in front of the display like this, or you can use your arms to assist you a little and use those ones. In theory, using your arms gives you a slightly harder workout. Okay, so we have an adjustable free weights bench. You would normally use it with the dumbbells that are in a rack against the wall there. Whichever exercise you do decide to do, make sure you're very familiar with the techniques and involved and how to do it safely. You would adjust this for various exercises, and this is how you would do so. Pull the lever and make sure it clicks in, and then that's securely inclined. The bottom bit also adjusts, and the reason you might want to do that is if you were to do chest flies, for example, like this. In this position, it does feel like you're slipping off the bench a little bit, in which case, pull the lever and tilt the front bit up, and you'll find that a much more comfortable position to do the exercise in. The other thing to remember when using free weights is to make sure you do put them away after use, so that other people and yourself do not trip over them. So literally do your repetitions. As long as you're not needing them again for the next set, put them back on the rack. Okay, so in here you do have the Technogym multi-gym, and that has 3 separate kind of workstations with 2 or 3 exercises on each in each station. First thing to do, adjust the weight. There's a little pin there that you pull out and slot back in. Ordinarily on this one, we would recommend using the lightest possible weight, but it does have a counterbalance mechanism. That means if you use too light a weight, the handles don't pull themselves into the starting position very well. So do leave a little bit of weight on here, but obviously make sure it's well within your capabilities. So a couple of different exercises. First one, the low pull or seated row position. For that, you need to adjust the knee rests. And there's a little lever that you pull out, and that will slide down. And for the low pull, you need it right at the very bottom. You then sit on it and rest your knees against the pads. Take hold of the handles, make sure your back is nice and flat, and then pull and slowly back. Pull and slowly back. And when you're doing it, it should feel like you're kind of squeezing your shoulder blades together. A high pull example would be kind of a lat pull down, and you need to adjust the machine a little bit again for that. Back to your lever, pull it out, and this slides up. For this one, your knees need to be underneath. So you sit on it and make sure your knees kind of wedge quite tightly underneath that one, because it does feel like it's lifting you out of your seat a little bit. Once you're all adjusted and your knees are comfortable, grab the handles, slowly pull down, slowly back up. Okay, so the next station you can use your core or your legs. So start with the legs. Key thing to adjust will be the backrest. You would sit on here first. When the backrest is in the correct position, your knees should line up with the pivot point which is there. So I'm a little bit too far forward in this case. You should also feel the backs of your knees pressing against this, and as you can see there's a bit of a gap. So you adjust the backrest, and there's a little lever that you pull up and that will slide. Make sure it's nice and firmly clicked in. Sit back down and you're in the correct position here. Before you even attempt any exercises, you've got to make sure you've adjusted the weight stack and that is on a very light weight to begin with. That is done on an easy pin just behind the backrest, which you pull out and lower to a more comfortable weight. And this one isn't counterbalanced, so you can do that on a nice light weight and the machine goes back into its start position very easily. So a quick leg extension for you. Sit on here. Now your knees rest against the pad and your knees are lined up with the pivot points. Hold the handles, slowly extend your legs and lower. Extend and lower. These do work independently of each other, so you can do single leg ones if you want to. Okay, so the second leg exercise on here works your hamstrings. Totally different position for this one. So you jump off, there's another lever under here, and you lift that pad. Make sure it's clicked in. You then step both legs inside the pads, and one leg at a time, straighten, curl, straighten. Nice and easy. Unhook your legs. Does feel a little bit strange, that position, so just do make sure you're comfortable before you begin the exercise. Pull the lever out, back into the flat position, and you're then able to do some core exercises. The key one on here involves these two straps. So you sit back down, you're already in a good position because you've adjusted the backrest for your leg extension. Sit back down, take hold of the straps. They're a little bit awkward, so you do obviously have to twist and reach behind you to get hold of them. Pop your hands in the hand grips. Back nice and flat against the thing to start with, and then you curl over. So you're kind of doing seated sort of sit-ups, crunches if you like. Contract your tummy, curl over, all the way back. Okay, so the third station is mostly presses, so largely chest. There are some bicep ones you can do on here as well. Before you do anything else, adjust the weight stack. Make sure it's on a very light weight to begin with so that you feel the movement of the exercise without too much resistance. There's a nice little pin for that. Obviously, out it comes, up to a much lighter weight. Starting with chest press. So the next thing you need to adjust is the seat height, and you're using the top handles for these. And your seat needs to be at a height whereby this is nearly at shoulder height. So I'm way too high here, my shoulder is a long way above the fitting. To adjust the seat, slightly awkward this one. Push on the back, pull up at the front, and it slides up and down. Sometimes it will bump down, so don't be afraid if it makes a bit of noise, this one. I need it quite a long way down. Okay, so now my shoulder is at a nice level height with the housing there. Take that handle and the other top handle, back nice and flat against the backrest, push away, handles touch together, and slowly back. And go nice and far back. Okay, a second one on here from exactly the same position, chest flies. Okay, so that's a really good two excellent chest exercises in that position. The lower handles, you might not use a seat at all for this one, and you do some bicep curls. So work the front of your arms. So you leave the seat out, take the handles, and then you're slowly curling and back down, again with a nice flat back. Or shoulder press, back in your seated position, seat nice and low again, and shoulder presses. Up when the handles just touch together at the top. As with all of the stations, they do have a really good guidance poster on the back, kind of behind the backrest. That gives you some exercise ideas or the sort of exercises you are able to do on this machine. Whichever one you choose, do make sure you are familiar with the techniques required before you attempt it, and obviously first 2 or 3 goes, make sure you're on a very light weight. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you do have any further questions or require any additional information, please do speak to your accommodation manager.